day number 4 of 28-day Explore. In the introduction, the very first paragraph here, I just wanted to read this because I think it's so important, and I know that this is a lot of work. But wow, you're doing this. Be excited, be nervous, be gentle, be kind, be patient, be consistent, be committed. If you do nothing else, just follow through, just to make a point that you're going to follow through, that you're going to give yourself this gift of commitment. It's so important. The next part is the little Holy Sober Insight. Again, this book was inspired by my first book, Holy Sober, a basic memoir about my relationship with alcohol. It wasn't a drunk-a-log, like all the crazy things I did when I was drunk. It was really about how I was primed to misuse alcohol, how I learned how to misuse alcohol and not have good relationships and not trust in myself. It's a really interesting book. I think it might be helpful, but you don't need to read it in order to be successful in this process. So a little Holy Sober Insight may be something that I'm just it may be an inspired thought, or actually maybe an excerpt from the book. But today it is, if nothing changes, nothing changes. I know change can be hard. The consequence of not consciously choosing to change can be even harder. In Holy Sober, I give exquisite demonstrations of sticking my head in the bottle and hoping everything works out. I also demonstrated how making conscious choices set me free. And the writing prompt today is, surprise, if nothing changes. If nothing changes, carry on. You know, what's after that, ... ellipsis. What's after that? If nothing changes. So I wanted to share a little bit. When I got sober, I started in the traditional path. I went through outpatient program, then I went through AA for good solid 6 months, going every single day, sometimes twice a day. And then I started weaning off around 6 months. And then I was completely done around 9 months because I knew I had to choose my sobriety over that program. And that program may work perfectly fine for others. It did not work for me. I knew I was going to get drunk if I stayed in it. And what I studied was, and when I left there, I had nothing. There was not the plethora of opportunities and options and mind and thoughts about alcohol today, or back then, as there is today. So I was kind of like out there doing this on my own. But what I did was I just got on with my life. And I did study about things that I wanted to, who I wanted to be, how I wanted to live my life. I studied about what it was that I wanted. So part of that was neuroscience. And actually neuroscience didn't come in until later on down the road because it really wasn't even prevalent back in 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006. It just was really a woo-woo far outside thing. But Joe Dispenza, I'm not sure how familiar all of you are with him, but he's kind of really well known for neuroscience. In one of his books, it talks about how we are creatures of ritual. We are creatures of habit. Starting from the first thing we do when we wake up, we hit the snooze button 3 times, and I'm just giving an example, maybe 4 for you. We hit the snooze button 3 times, we get out on the same side of the bed, we scooch our feet into slippers, we walk around the bed, into the bathroom, start the shower. I mean, these are things that we do every single day. That's a routine, and it's kind of like autopilot where you would never really recognize it until something interrupts that routine. And then we respond. How do you respond when that routine is interrupted, when that habitual ritual is interrupted? Sometimes many of us are like, oh no, what do I do? You know, my whole day's all screwed up now. I can't get back on track. But that's exactly what we need to do when we're rethinking our drinking, when we're wanting to change our relationship with alcohol. We have to create that change. We have to create that interruption, and I call it interception in our path, so we can create a new neural pathway. And what does that look like? Well, when you get up in the morning, and you may not think that this is going to contribute to you picking up a glass of wine every night, but I swear to you, it does. So when you get in the shower, what do? You wash your face, then you wash your hair, then you wash your shoulders, and you do this routine. I want you to pay attention to it because you're going to be blown away how habitual you are. When you go into the office, you have the same kind of demeanor. When you talk to the same people, you have the same relationships. I mean, everything is kind of, if you looked at it, it's almost like you're living the same exact day every day. So just be mindful of that. And what could you do different? What's that little tweak that you could do that would create that day not being exactly like the other day? And I know things change and we have different plans, different nights, but for the most part, by and large, we're living the same day every day. For instance, so when I first got sober, my sister was my drinking buddy and my best friend. She's actually, I believe she's my soulmate. We were supposed to be here together. And I made a hard, fast rule when I first stopped drinking, which was actually January 3rd. Yesterday was my 17th year anniversary. And when I made my decision to no longer misuse alcohol. And I told Prince Harming, who was my boyfriend at the time, I don't want my sister over. I don't want to have, and I loved her. I wasn't blaming her for it, but I knew she was a cue for me. I knew she was a trigger for me. So please don't have her come over, especially on the weekends. This is what I need. And so what he did on the 59th day, and it was the very first Alcoholics Anonymous meeting I went to. On the 59th day, we went to AA, and when we went home, I was laying down for a nap. And he said, I think I'm going to invite your sister and Ken over so we can have a barbecue. It was a beautiful, bright, sunny day, and it was perfect beer and barbecue weather. And I told him no, and I reminded him that's a trigger for me. I know I need to create a new relationship with her, but not at this time. And he invited her over. And of course, that night I ended up drinking because I felt like I was under the gun that this is what I'm supposed to do. This is the habit. This is the expectation. And I do believe that's what it was. I didn't get drunk that night. I didn't go on a bender, but what I did do is convince myself that everything that I was taught was absolutely correct. I can't help myself. I have this disease inside of me, blah, 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 blah. And I come to find out that really wasn't true. What it was I was exhausted, which is another that's another neuroscience theory or what science finds, is that we get decision fatigue. We get where we keep trying to resist, but we're putting ourselves in these situations that it's impossible to resist, and we get worn down, and that's when we fold. So today, what I want you to think about, and write in your journal, if nothing changes, what is going to happen? And then identify some, where can you make some key changes that is going to disrupt that process, that neural pathway of what always happens. I always drive this certain way home and I always stop at that last store, and that's my last call. And if I don't get that, and that anxious feeling you get if you don't stop there. So how can you go a different way? So think about where you can interrupt, disrupt, intercept your normal process. Be intentional with your day. Be aware. And when you get the journal and you read Conscious Choices for Change, you're going to see the power of that. It'll further anchor that for you. If nothing changes, write it down. Write it down right now at the top of your notebook if you don't already have the journal. And then make sure you're doing the work. Don't get exhausted with decision fatigue. And then I wrote, and so this is the second page of writing. And then there is a quote here, or not a quote, but every day you have two choices. You evolve and do something that fosters, inspires, results in growth and learning, or you repeat. Keep experiencing the same day over and over until you run out of days. Ugh, it sounds dreadful. Remember, every day you get a closing quote to help you anchor. The definition of insanity: Doing the same things over and over and expecting different results. That is Albert Einstein. I know that it's referred to a lot of people take credit for it, but that was Albert Einstein, who is brilliant. Again, I studied who it is I wanted to be, what it is I wanted to change. I didn't study alcoholism. I didn't study addiction. I didn't study habit or alcohol use disorder, substance use disorder. I studied the behavior I wanted to create and the person I wanted to be. That's where I put my time, my attention, and my focus. So that's it today.